All right.
Hello, this is Mohsen Paul Sarfarazi, and we've come to another program in a series of a video recital, which I call a paper recitals, in which we have a dear member of our soul family and soul family member who's going to be reciting one of the papers. This particular one is about actually very important paper. It's about 5D ascension, which was a false ascension, and and after that, when she's done, we will be, we'll have a session that she has questions. I'm pretty sure, and she has further comments to make. So we'll have a discussion. Please stay tuned for that too. It's actually a very important part of the program. Just to, repeat myself for those people who've seen these videos, but I have to do it just in case somebody's seeing it for the first time. This is a program that I believe I launched this recently because, first of all, a lot of people have asked that they couldn't, they asked for videos. They've been asking for video for years, actually, especially when I stopped doing it several years ago. And, they say that they have vision problem, or they're dyslexic, or they can't read properly from their, phone, and that's all they use. They don't use computers. And also, I realized that it's a good way of also interfacing with my friends, my Facebook friends, or my soul family members, and who I serve, mostly because you're in the front line of getting the service, basically. It will trickle to people eventually, throughout years, maybe. So anyway, we started this program and giving a chance to the soul family member to interface with me directly and to ask the questions, so they don't have to type all the time, texting me or whatever. So anyway, and also it's a very, very good exercise for a person to learn to give, unconditional love, because she's doing this out of unconditional love and service. And that's where we're going. To become avatars, you have to learn, you have to master the art of unconditional love. You have to start really learning, mastering the art of giving service. And it's an acumen. It's not just an art, it's an acumen. You'll find it's all good for the all, Unfortunately, we've been contaminated by the negative aliens and all that. So anyway, I will dispense giving you a lecture on all that stuff, and just go ahead in here and show you what paper she's going to be reading. The paper is actually called Who Are the Fallen Melchizedeks, Part 3, the Fallen Ascension 5D Matrix. Am I correct?
It's part 1.
Oh dear, no, I got the wrong one. All right, let's see. Actually, it may not be difficult. Actually, it would be a way of telling you. These papers actually are on academia.edu. Okay, so if you go to, there you go, all three of them are in the room. Okay, so
there it is.
That's the paper, right? Okay, wonderful. So if you go to academia.edu, it's right there. Or, you can Google my name and pick up a paper on academia.edu, and you end up in the right place. You may even find the very same paper on Google easily. You know what I'm saying? Then when you click on it, it goes into it. But anyway, if you go to academia.edu, you will find the list of all these papers. You see, these are all here, okay? And I don't want to lose my place. Right here. And if you click on that, if you go and choose that, and you go, please cooperate. There you go. Computer is slow. That's the paper. Okay, so you can find it there. That's one way of doing it in academia. Now, academia doesn't have all the papers, just has about 130 papers. There are way more papers. You know, the server that is actually archiving, I'm using for archiving this is really WordPress, and that's the newer papers. I wrote 150 papers before they were on another server, and you don't even have access to those anymore because I took them out. You know, I've never had time to go and put them back up. But there's small, there's shorter papers, 150 papers. When I got my clarion call in 2011, I wrote those between 2011 and 2012, and they're not as detailed as these papers are, as long and detailed and all this stuff. But nevertheless, we covered a lot of grounds in there. Anyway, the other way that you can find this paper is actually go to wordpress.com, which is right here, wordpress.com. Now, again, if you go on, if you Google my name, you can find a paper very easily. I mean, you can find hundreds of papers right on Google, okay? Even if Google only gives 6 pages, it'll give you a chance to click and find more stuff from the author. They don't want to. And then you can have 40, 50 pages coming of all kinds of stuff I've done in the past, okay? But then you can find at least one paper on wordpress.com. Now, what I do say to you is that make sure you click on a paper that's not reblogged, because if you click on that link, you go to their website and then you see my paper, but it's their website, okay? You want something that has the name wordpress.com in it. For example, multidimensional consciousness.wordpress.com. There are 5 blogs, actually. This is one of them. The other ones are quantum mechanics of cosmos. The other one is about physiognomy, et cetera, you know, genetics. And the other one is on spirituality 101, and one is on ascension. There's 5 of them. But anyway, any blog you go, it does not matter. As soon as you click on the paper, you will come to something like this that has this top, just like this in here. And if you look in there, you will find, you know, the list of papers on consciousness. For example, here, what I did, and I'm going to click back on it, and I'm going to get the same thing, because that's where I am, okay? You see, it went back to the same thing. These are the papers, for example, reverse conscious technology, you know, I call it NARC. I'm sorry, I'm racing through this because I want to get back to this. But yeah, these are on basically negative aliens. And if you go down in here, let's see, if you go down in here, Ascension, here we go, voila. This is the one, okay? And you click on that, you can go on the paper. Anyway, I am probably going, you know, over explaining this to you. I'm sure you're smart enough to find these things, navigate and find these papers very easily. I'm very easy to find. My papers are so easy to find. They're all free to go for you, you know, for your enlightenment and pleasure. So anyway, here we go. The other thing that I was going to just tell you is that consider, I have started a new, what is it, YouTube channel. Consider subscribing to that. You know, if you're interested in this program, first of all, you can write to me and say that you would like to also participate in the program, and you know, you can recite the program, and especially have lots of questions, which almost everybody has. But some people shy away from doing this and going on the camera. There's really nothing. It's very, very informal. It's very friendly, and as you can see, you've seen some others we've done. So it's the objective is to get to know each other, to just have a discussion together, to have questions answered, and all that stuff. Okay. So with all introduction again, I will give the screen to Liz O'Connell, right?
Yes.
She's a wonderful soul family member. She's a deeper person who's serious about her spirituality work, and so she reads papers very, 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 you know, diligently. And you know, this is what you need to do. You need to. What's going on is that there's this all kinds of movements out there. Some of them are purely rubbish and social media, and people just constantly want to be on a screen, and they're online, they're what do they call them, alive or whatever, and they don't really have anything to say. It's all, you know what I'm saying. There are also people who like to show themselves, and then also there are people who, as soon as become awakened a little bit, they find it so intriguing that quickly they think they're guru. They know something, and they haven't even started understanding what the world is about, the whole thing is. So they soon start having their own channels, video channels, whatever, and then they have offered their services to make money and all this stuff. Okay, the positive part of that is that at least they're involved. But if they don't get deeply into this by really trying to understand what's going on, they're really not doing anything. They are actually more detrimental to the progress of ascension and consciousness expansion than they're doing any good. Okay, and of course we've got the other ones who are basically all gurus and everything. They want to, they give conferences and all that stuff. I've spoken of those things, and they're false prophets, and they're narcissistic, very, very selfish, and those are the type of people that the negative aliens target. So they're either directly or indirectly possessed by the negative aliens, and they're really propagating their things. In fact, Liz, I think, already knows something about this or recognizes this inherently. I can feel her energies, that she knows that this Melchizedek, she calls it Melchizedek, I think, but anyway,
Yeah.
Melchizedek, but they're both correct equally. It was a false ascension. Even, we'll talk about this a little bit more.
Yeah.
So the paper
it's why I chose to read this paper, because I've had experience and understood eventually what was really happening.
Wonderful, Liz. With that introduction, I'll give the screen to you, and it's all yours, and I'll be listening here. And whenever whenever you like to ask questions, I will be happy to interject. And I'm looking forward to having a very good discussion with you today. Okay? Here you are.
too.
There's Liz O'Connell.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mohsen. I really, really appreciate all your work. When I found you, I was so happy that there was somebody telling the truth about everything and confirming things that I felt I knew. But I will get on with the paper. Just a brief introduction about who I am. My name is Liz, and I'm from Ireland, and I've been in the spiritual world, soul searching for a very long time, and I have discovered a lot of great information and a lot of fake information, and it's why I chose to read this paper, as I said earlier, because I think it's extremely important, especially for newer people who are waking up, not to make the mistake of following false prophets, false gurus who are leading you down the garden path, as my mother used to say, and taking all your money with them. So because Mohsen has basically given up his life now and is not looking for any kind of financial offering, this work is completely pure of all negative energy, because it's come directly from your source, your connection to source. And that's exactly the information anybody who's waking up really needs right now. So let's get on with reading the paper. Who are the fallen Melchizedeks? Part 1, Coerced and Cooperate with Negative Aliens, by Mohsen Paul Sarfarazi. I didn't say that right, apologies. Ph.D. Abstract. Over the course of the years, as of more recently, many followers, friends of the author have been asking questions with reference to the Melchizedeks and their role in humanity's earth ascension. Below, you will find a sample of such questions posted to the author as of more recently, and the response to some of these questions, which were also later posted as slides for the benefit of the all. Herein, via the publication of this paper, you will find a more detailed response to such questions and concerns pertaining to the coerced role of the fallen Melchizedeks with reference to cooperating with the negative aliens. Introduction. The fallen Melchizedeks as the former blue ray angelics. The last ascension cycle, going back to over 26,000 years ago, was hosted by the blue ray family of Melchizedeks, who were originally a part of the guardian hosts, one before becoming fallen. Blue ray is the first primal order sound field of the universal creation of our time matrix, 2, and the source field for the blue ray level of R is Melchizedeks. The blue ray is the part of the threefold founder flame universal triad that together makes up the Trinity ray aspect of our universe. It was distorted on Earth because of the absence of the mother arc until it was able to return to the Earth core during the end of the essential cycle, 3, to reclaim the blue ray out of the clutches of the fallen Melchizedek. By starting to cater to the dogma of patriarchal dominion or domination and misogyny, very much in line with the reptilian negative aliens 5 to 7, this portion of the Melchizedeks who were hosting the Ascension Matrix family became fallen, who subsequently joined the negative aliens. Subsequently, this resulted in the accelerated diminishing of the planet humanities and all the overall Earth's collective consciousness, 8, and its consciousness field under atrocious contamination, distortion, damage, and reversal by negative aliens. And this process of Earth humanity consciousness reversal was also exacerbated by the Thotian Luciferian rebellion that also occurred around 26,000 years ago, 9. The joining of the Melchizedek to the Horde practically gave the reptilian negative aliens the proverbial carte blanche to do as they please with the Earth humans, particularly blocking our evolutional capability. To the true guardian founders, distance connection to the lower dimensional planes, example 3D Earth, in which its local consciousness affairs were delegated to Thoth Lucifer as the main emissary in these dimensional planes, together with the Melchizedek family having taken the task of being the ascension host. 10. The reptilian form of patriarchal domination, also adopted by the Melchizedek family, became rampant on Earth. This led to extreme oppression and tyranny through mind control, gender archetype programming, 11 to 15, as well as other forms of mind control programming, 16 to 25, deployed through the use of holographic inserts. That caused streaming upon humanity self-destructive impulses, provoking addictive and self-abusive behaviors fueled by the negative aliens, divide and conquer strategies by a way of deploying patriarchal domination and misogyny and victimization software programming. This all entailed humanity resorting to low-frequency consciousness manifested as thought and emotional self-destructive behaviors via engaging in violence and warring conduct among themselves, driven by prejudicial eugenics, attitudes emanating from religious hypocrisy and superstition, as well as racial bias that led to fulfilling the nefarious desire and needs of the negative aliens for bloodlust, facilitating their parasitic vampiric energetic feedings, 28 to 29. And to exacerbate the problem further, the negative aliens also devised mind-controlling programming software being streamed upon humanity that provoked the seemingly uncontrollable impulses giving rise to sexual misery in certain humans, relinquished their louche that is much sought after for consumption by these parasitic vampiric negative aliens. Note that the most important aspect of human consciousness energies stem from sexual energetic sources. That is reserved for procreation and bringing into physical manifestation of new solar organic sentient beings, as well as the spiritual energetic fire that runs in human blood. This is why, through their moon operation and AI machinery, 30, they have always concentrated on human sexual organs, harvesting their sexual energies of human beings.
Could I just interrupt you here, my dear? Those numbers that you refer,
I don't need
to, you really don't need it. That they refer to the papers references at the end of the paper,
okay.
and if they're following the text as you're reading, that's okay. But some other people might say, why
is she saying
those numbers? Yeah, those numbers just refer to the references. So
the references? Yeah.
that means if you want more information, you can find, additional papers that have been written on, whatever.
So we could say that, all numbers, you could use that at the end or at the beginning of each paper. All reference numbers are cited at the end of each paper and can be investigated further by yourself at any time, something like that. If people really want to go into researching, which I advise people to definitely get into researching by themselves. It's very, very important.
Actually, what that does is just when you make references to that, it's very common in scientific papers that it refers you to either qualifies the statements that you're making. Okay, so for example, if you say this is the trend, or this is true, or this is the fact, it's because somebody published it, proved it, established it, whatever. Or you could use this the way I use it. It's kind of like a Wikipedia. In other words, in fact, a lot of my papers could be in a form of Wikipedia. You know what I'm saying? So like in here, you're talking about Melchizedek, Fallen Melchizedek. It's a whole article to read about it. And what does that mean? How that came about? All that kind of stuff. So basically, I actually you could pick any paper, and if you follow, this is the way I used to study when I was a professor. You know what I'm saying? That if I wanted to get to know a new field or somebody's work that was new to me, I would make sure I go through all those references. I'll find them, and dig them out, and I would read them, and then I would have a mastery of the subject, just like the author who's reading, you're reading their work, what's going on. So if you say Einstein's, this and this, quantum entanglement, this and this, of course, those are really well established and old. Nobody goes to those. But I even went to original paper by Newton, Sir Isaac Newton, to see what he says myself. But anyway, you don't have to be that dense. But what it is, it gives you a roadmap. You know what I'm saying? To learn more, So anyway, that's what she's being very thorough. She's reading it exactly from the text, but those numbers that are in the bracket, they refer to references, which are very good to go and refer to, because it will shed more light on the statement that was just made. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, I think that's important for people to follow through if they can, because it then helps that information stay within you. You know, that you just haven't read one paper and think you know everything. It doesn't work like that. It's a continuous process until you really fully understand something. And I think most people learn like that, unless you have a photographic memory, of course.
It certainly opens up the door, and also it reinforces the subject matter, and it also gives you a different perspective. Even when I refer only to my own papers most of the time, because, you know, it's, as I said, I use it like a Wikipedia. But the point is that even if you read that, it was written at a different time, and they talk about the same subject from a little different perspective, you get a real mastery of the subject area or the topic that you're talking about. Okay, so that's why I include those. By the way, it's taking me a horrendous amount of time as of more recently to do that, because when you put 100 to 150 references in there and trying to figure out where they were and what they were and what you said in everywhere, it's just, it's very time consuming. When I finish the paper totally and I'm ready to publish, in fact, I have oodles of papers like that right now, and they're only waiting for abstract, and they're waiting for but they're time consuming.
Yeah.
And it's a part of a tedious part of the publishing the paper, but I want to be thorough. I don't want to just leave it. If people don't read it, it's a shame, because I put a lot of work to it,
Yeah. No, I completely understand. And I really appreciate it. I understand how much work you have put in. I have worked with publishers and writers before, and I know many hours and sleepless nights go into everything you do, and it's very much appreciated.
Well, I'm glad it was brought up, because it clarifies the point that people see the brackets, and people may be quite innocent and just not even knowing what's going on, and goes, whoosh. I have thought about, instead of putting those brackets, coding them. So you're just like in Wikipedia, you see, you click on it and you go to the other paper. You could do that, except it doesn't quite go with the way I do it, because I only mention the paper once.
Yeah.
So let's say if I say unconditional love, and then I put the reference to unconditional love paper that I wrote on unconditional love. If 10 times later I refer to the word unconditional love, or I speak of unconditional love, I don't go back. You don't see the bracket saying, oh, remember, it doesn't.
Yeah.
So it introduces to you once. Now, if you code it, you have to code the words every single time that it appears. You know what I'm saying? It is something that, could be done, but all these things need editorial work, and I don't really have time for all that stuff,
It's enormous amount of work. That's how it's done legally too. I worked for a number of years doing a lot of work for solicitors, and it's very detailed, like much more detailed. But they do that. They put those references because there could be 6 versions of the same document, and that's very time consuming. Very, very.
Oh, it's all part of the labor of love that you do, and
it is.
I would not switch life or position with anybody else. And in fact, God has taken care of me, so the options are open if I didn't want to do other things, in terms of all kinds of things.
I'm very grateful, and I know so many other people are too, for all you.
The best thing that when you say you're grateful, okay, the best thing that warms my heart is not the patting on the shoulder and stuff. I've heard things over years. You know what I'm saying? That if I wanted to let it go through my head, you know what I'm saying, I would be really corrupted by now. I wouldn't actually not be what I am, you know? So thank you for saying that. But the gratefulness reflects back to you. Because if you are grateful, you have expanded in your consciousness, and you can expand even further. Let me make you one example. God does not need your praising, your praying. God is the progenitor, created you, okay? Or created everything that might have had something to do with creating it, okay? So when you say thanks to God, which I do constantly, okay? I live with God, okay? When you do this, it keeps you honest.
Yes, I agree. I do this every single day. I go for walks on the beach, and that's when I sit down and I give thanks. I give thanks to Mother Earth and to the God Source, and much gratitude. You know, every day is a gift. It really is right now. It's hard for people, but we're in the midst of something that's probably never happened before. And I think when you practice a lot of gratitude, you really can, sit back and really understand the greatness of being here now, and what the task that we all have, which is just to remember who we are. That in itself isn't easy.
We could have a whole program dedicated, which I will actually write someday, about gratitude. Just one full-length paper about it. I have enough to say about it. But let me just summarize this with you. When you are grateful, you're on the right track. You're going up. You are safe from egotism, narcissism, selfishness, separatism, all this stuff, okay? Because when you're ungrateful and take everything for granted, you're entitled and all this stuff, okay? You don't really appreciate what the person's done or doing for you at all, okay? And you're putting value, even if you go out and say, he's great, she's great, and stuff, with that kind of, mindset, you're not grateful.
No.
What I'm saying, because you haven't appreciated. If you do this, you develop, for example, excuse me, when you tell me this, it tells me that you're going to read another paper and you're going to deliberate on that paper and you're going to strive to decipher and understand that paper, and you're going to grow and you're going to grow and you're going to grow. Okay? The fact that you say that, and I get a lot of comments, wonderful people say that. Also, you've seen probably comments from people who come in there, and we don't get them anymore. We used to have troll-like people, once in a blue moon, I would get somebody like that. Or usually the new people who come to the Facebook, for example, they're lost. It takes a little bit of time and they fall in. And then they want to come back, and then they feel part of the group, or they feel like this is their home. They want to come back to this. You know what I'm saying? At the beginning, titled, "What have you done for me lately?" Well, my opinion is different than your opinion. Well, that's fine. You should have your own opinion, but you know what I'm saying? Don't judge. And it all goes there. Anyway, we can, as I told you, it connects with all kinds of problems. This judgment is one thing. Selfishness, it can lead to narcissism, even to psychopathic behavior. You may not see it as I tell you this. Grateful, if you're not grateful, you're psychopathic. Yeah, if you think about that way, it would be, logically hard to totally, explain that. But trust me, it leads to that little
I know.
by little. So be grateful to God, okay? Because if you do, you feel God's love in your heart, and that's what you need. That's what propels you. That's what keeps you going. Anyway, dear, we can talk at the end.
We'll move on. Yes,
Read
I'm thinking of you
if you
too.
want. You can skip over the numbers,
Yes, I will skip over the numbers just briefly to say that people should be encouraged to look at the numbers when they're reading papers and search for the references themselves. By doing this, you're going to expand your consciousness even more, get better understanding, and come back to the paper again. Possibly reading one time for most people will not be enough. And that's all I'll say about the references.
Yeah, by the way, I want to tell you this, it's not like the old scientific way we used to. We used to go to the library, dig out. I spent so many hours on digging out the references of other authors' papers. You know what I'm saying? Here, all you got to do, this is one place that technology is helping. One place you go down there, you click in it, boom, you're in the paper.
Brilliant.
Easy,
Yeah,
it's up to you.
much easier. I remember those days having to dig through the library to get references, take hours.
And go to hell to find the thing. And even the librarian couldn't find that thing.
Yeah,
So,
or somebody else had it and never brought it back.
gosh, I spent hours like that.
Yeah. Anyway, the next part is it's the fourth page, and it begins. And it is through warmongering and inciting the impulses of violence leading to war and killing and bloodshed that they have succeeded to extract so much loot from human beings over eons of time. This has practically reduced humans to nothing more than farm animals or energetic batteries or consciousness energetic generators, producing the low frequential consciousness energies of Lush, upon which they feed and are so dependent in order to survive, meanwhile maintaining and ensuring the longevity and continuous operation of their nefarious AI machinery. In particular, the archetype gender distortion and splitting led to obstructing the innate humanity's right of achieving hieroskamos, sacred marriage, as the requisite for connecting to the 0-point energetic fields, leading to the divine mind of God via its vast neural network. As a result, human beings' innate Merkaba light flight vehicle has remained inoperable. All this time without the possibility of transmigrating to higher dominions or domains of consciousness. The example, higher harmonic universes or beyond the confines of the 12D Nebadon time matrix. Additionally, their nefarious artificial intelligent machinery was devised to generate frequency fences, interfering with human consciousness multidimensionality. In particular, through imposing such genetic mutative effects as gender splitting, it is put an end to the process of hieroskamos, the sacred marriage between what was supposed to be the polarity or gender equals at various dimensional levels, harmonic universes. Accordingly, humans became grounded, unable to ever activate their innate flight mechanics machinery that provided the means for time traveling and teleportation via activating their Merkaba light vehicle. effectively blocking humans to ever become able to transmigrate to the higher dimensional planes or levels through acquiring consciousness, expansion, and evolution. Later, the Melchizedeks, who were supposed to be the ascension emissaries of the guardian founders of the universe, as the ascension host began to devise a false ascension matrix, a distorted ascension program with the cooperation of other negative aliens. Accordingly, as of more recently, and relatively shortly before the end of the current ascension cycle, terminating on the 12th of the 12th of the 12th, a clarion call was made to the guardian founders that also reverberated to the higher extra trans-dimensional benevolent master crystals collective from the higher universes to intercede with the process of ascension of Earth and its inhabitants, which also resurrected the Paladorians' covenants for rescuing the lost souls of Tara and others. Accordingly, the Melchizedeks were dismissed from hosting the ascension upon the discovery that they had become fallen and were replaced by the guardian hosts on the 12th of the 12th, 21. The old ascension matrix, that is also referred to as 5D ascension, was a false ascension matrix that became under the control of negative aliens. Accordingly, the Melchizedeks, as ascension emissaries, began to devise a program of paltering, deception, and lies, carefully distorting the human history and excluding the role of negative aliens in Earth and humanity's consciousness affairs. As a result, there has been much false ascension messaging arising under false pretense of New Age spirituality. These are partly in the form of channeled messages emanating from the astral plane below 4D that are broadcasted via the reverse's 10th stargate called the Iran Gate and the distorted and reversed version of the Golden Eagle Grid, renamed by the negative aliens as the White Eagle Grid. These messages purportedly came from false individuals who call themselves either archangels or ascended masters, which in fact they are neither. To be an ascended master, and certainly an archangel, one must first graduate from experiencing the 12D grid time matrix of the Nebadon universe at least once before engaging in such spiritual guidance ventures. And any beings from 4D astral plane certainly neither qualifies as an ascended master nor an archangel. These are negative aliens, propaganda that are long planned as the old 5D ascension matrix that was replaced by a new ascension plan, also referred to as Ascension B plan, when the Melchizedeks were replaced by the guardian hosts. However, this false ascension matrix and messaging is now just diminishing thanks to the efforts of the guardian founders and their high dimensional, extra and trans-dimensional partners and co-helpers dismantling the negative aliens' beast structure. Be aware of the old ascension matrix referred to as the 5D ascension that is false and controlled by negative aliens. This includes Melchizedeks as ascension emissaries, which is full of paltering, deception, and lies, carefully distorting the human history and excluding the role of negative aliens in all this. Ashtar is concocted by the negative aliens. The whole thing gets transmitted from the Iran Gate, alias the 10th Star Gate, and is part of a false ascension propaganda to thwart the real ascension process. Most of the Ashtar Command's propaganda stems from negative aliens, parallel false ascension construct and plans for devious mind control. As such, there is much misinformation in this regard, on the internet by the negative aliens nowadays, trying to create confusion by introducing a dogma or false ascension timeline. Yet ascension is quite real. There is much happening with regard to the energetics, creating repairs, changes in the planetary consciousness grids, and the Stargate ley line structure, including de-densification of the fabric of space-time and the elemental structure of matter that is being re-encrypted as we speak. As a result of negative aliens controlling Earth and humans, the original ascension plan that was divided into 6 individual time cycles within a 26,556 years, with the scheme of ascension occurring gradually at the end of time cycle, propelling humanity to the next stage of evolution, became a sham, inundated with a phantom ascension program, culminating in the false new age of purported spirituality. There is now a new and updated ascension plan that excludes the original 5D ascension plan, which was highly infiltrated and sabotaged by the negative aliens by a way of New Age spirituality propaganda, most of which was channeled from the astral plane and the headquarters of negative aliens in this dimensional consciousness field. The Melchizedek family were the genetic ascension hosting race for Earth and its organic inhabitants during the period that actually goes back at least 35,000 years. They were to help the Earth heal and evolve out of the lower dimension and phantom matrix. Because we have reached the end of a root race cycle, their peregrination with Earth in this capacity has also come to completion and closure. This now allows a time of review and pause for genetic rehabilitation and consolidative healing for the 12 tribes of humanity. This is the promise that the Melchizedeks are making as a result of a part of them having fallen. The new ascension cycle and the new genetic rehabilitation of Earth and humanity is made possible through a new alignment with the Mother Ark to be rebirthed into the original creation field. When a group of Melchizedek families started to subscribe to the dogma of patriarchal domination and misogyny by joining the Anunnaki resistance and these reptilian hybrid races, they became the fallen Melchizedeks. As a result, the vibrational frequency of the blue ray on Earth was distorted until the Mother Ark was able to return to the Earth core and reclaim the blue ray out of the fallen Melchizedek's use. More specifically, this occurred in 2009 when our planet surpassed the Melchizedek's universal field to prepare for the return of the 13th pillar gate of the Mother Ark. Mother Ark hubs have now been replacing the Melchizedek architecture on the Earth. The planet changed architectural hosting and moved into a new root race cycle hosted by the Aurora body and the families of the crystal star in the next universe in December 2012. And it is now overseen by the guardian hosts themselves. The fallen Melchizedeks and the Hebrews, or the Hebrew tribes. Hebrews have a genetic connection to fallen Melchizedeks, who through historic Judaism and Kabbalah brought a portion of Melchizedek intelligence, such as the Merkabah and the universal tree of life. However, due to patriarchal distortion and joining at the covert negative alien invasion and intrusion, the tree of life was damaged and changed to 10 spheres or nodes instead of a 12 base mathematics. The original Melchizedeks have now returned to the Earth's consciousness field and at the end of the cycle, who are attempting to correct and rebuild the distorted tree of life back to its correct formula base 12. The Tree of Life provides the basis for the holographic instruction set for all physical manifestations within the Nebadon universe, which is also referred to as the 12D grid. Some of the Guardian Christos consciousness, who represent unity consciousness, oneness through the law of one, are of the Melchizedek lines. However, there are also fallen Melchizedeks seeking genetic rehabilitation during this ascension cycle. The original Melchizedeks formed the 12 lineage of the Hebrew tribes before becoming fallen. They were given the genetic hosting responsibility to assist in the embodiment of the higher DNA language called Habaru. This language is a genetic code which originated from the cradle of Lyra in the Avatar Matrix timelines, the fourth harmonic universe. The Melchizedek's lines were attempting to salvage this ancient language of humanity on the earth, which was essential to protecting the memories of the history of humanity reflected in the time vector codes. Upon the Luciferian rebellion, however, the Melchizedek's lines became infiltrated by the Luciferian forces. The primary infiltration was a patriarchal Melchizedeks who developed a misogynist tendency based on distortions that were imposed in the female Christos body, Sophia. These lines started to lose their connection to the mother principle through their engaged actions. Accordingly, they began justifying their actions and belief systems that they could commit to inflicting intentional harm to others. That is the nature of any war, and consequently fell from grace of God. Thus, the fallen Melchizedeks, who were once a faction of the original blue Melchizedek consciousness, who subscribed to the doctrine of the universal unity consciousness, upholding the law of one, now surrendered to the illusion of existence of inequality between gender principle, namely believing in the delusional male supremacy. This also led to hive mind mentality, which indicated that the collective consciousness had become out of balance with unity. The patriarchal perspective also distorted and reduced the original 12 base code, 12D ray, into a 10 base code. This is, of course, in line with the reptilian negative aliens who first severed their connection to the rest of the multiverse and the high dimensions of consciousness by invading and destroying the 12th Stargate of Lyra, confining themselves within the first 10-dimensional space-times of the Nebadon universe. This way, they dreamed of someday owning the Nebadon universe by ruling it as gods, while separating this universe from the rest of the cosmos, thus negating the possibility of again being chased out or incarcerated for their evil deeds, while at the same time they indirectly depended on the divine energetics of God, fulfilling their needs through harvesting and parasitically preying and feeding upon the energies of the solar organic consciousness beings. And they construed this as an essential and viable measure to ensure their survival and even increasing their longevity, as they have become fallen and severed themselves from being able to directly take advantage of the open loop of free energetics provided by the God source. As a result, they formed a closed circuit energetic structure in which the energies would flow from solar organic consciousness beings to them for consumption, for supplying the energetic needs of running their nefarious AI technology, and for the purpose of storing the additional leftover energies in their black hole Moloch storage tanks. And to them, this was an intelligent approach. as they left themselves with absolutely no sense of compassion or empathy for others by firmly dedicated to the concept of service to self only, having adopted the utterly ruthless proverbial attitude of taking no prisoners. At the same time, with having severed themselves from God's source, they could play gods while continuing with their attitude of pillage, loot, and plunder at the expense of others, while putting others under oppression, suppression, and tyranny and enslavement, and whatever tactic they need to totally annihilate what they could not use, and with the intent of maintaining a docile race of captives plagued by unconsciousness imprisonment. This way, they did not need to show any reverence or conformance with the provisions of the lower one, or the fundamental right of free will and sovereignty of others, with the delusional fancy of doing pretty much anything they want to their captives and slaves, while confiscating their captive resources, including their own divine energies, which were continuously being siphoned for their vampiric parasitic needs. What is also deranged is the fact that they do not even have any respect or sense of mercy or even tolerance for their own female counterparts. Accordingly, their societal structure is run through a patriarchal domination and the dogma of misogyny, while being confined to a strict hive-like structure comprised of pyramidal hierarchy, in which everyone residing on the lower portions of this pyramid must not only pay homage and reverence for all those who reside above, but also be in constant fear for their survival from their superiors, who pretty much own them and can demand whatever they want from them. And any deviation from abiding such hierarchical structure constitutes defiance or treason, punishable by death or destruction. This is military rule, and in its most cruel and crudest way, with only those who subscribe to violence or warring mentality being considered as strong and worthy to command and rule. In contrast, all those who do not strictly follow such a code of conduct are deemed as weak and unworthy and good for nothing to even survive. Example, they're females. This is why many species of negative aliens have already annihilated their female counterparts. Example, the Greys and the Zetas, either deliberately and on their own or as a result of wars with other hordes of negative aliens who were taken from them and used as sexual slaves and such. And others who still have their females existing among them. They only consider them fit for having violent sex with them and treating them with the most misogynic attitude ever possible. Thus, the fallen Melchizedeks, who began to have patriarchal dominion tilt via believing in the supremacy of the masculine principle only existing amongst Jewish society, effectively caused the damage and encouraged to the rod function of the planetary consciousness grid. Then the reversal 1010 code was born and brought into the earth that epitomizes the basis for the Metatronic reversal, based upon the mathematical principle of the Fibonacci sequence, and is associated distortion that occurs in the quantum conscious fields as a result of bi-wave energetics, due to the separation from the open, free, energetic loop provided by the God source. This also provides a means for parasitic vampiric entities to siphon energy from others, utilized for feeding themselves in favor of continual survival or longevity, and supplying energies to their nefarious AI machinery and the excess energies to be stored in their Moloch tanks. War over timelines, Melchizedek AI infiltration. Due to the patriarchal domination, distortions infiltrating the universal Melchizedek lineages as brought through the artificial timelines from the hidden negative alien invasion, the original universal tree of life was mutilated via the Metatronic coding and reduced to 10 sphere nodes instead of the original mathematical base of 12. Accordingly, the Kabbalah artificial tree of life in the Judaism religion represents a false tree of life and distorts and emulates the 10D base code reptilian genetic blueprint. Essentially, the Thotian Luciferian agenda was to utterly destroy all organic creation code, matrices, and even artifacts that included base 12 math, only to be replaced with their own version of base 10 math or sequencing. They were attempting to permanently genetically modify and hybridize the 12-strand DNA human genetics through the imposition of their artificial manifestation template. Unfortunately, much of the cellular alphabet in these specialized Melchizedek DNA languages were integrated into the artificial timelines and phantom realities that promptly distorted the fire codes and time sets. Accordingly, this aligned Melchizedek's intelligence with the artificial timelines instead of the organic timelines. However, many were able to perceive this distortion in the overall fields because their entire monadic matrix and soul groups were stationed in the artificial timelines without being aware of what was actually happening. This represents an alien hybridization agenda that the reptilian negative aliens are still aggressively pursuing, an effort that is going on in tandem with their transhuman project. Hybridization of humans. The false ascension matrix and the hybrid breeding of humans epitomize the game programs that still have the possibility to be operational in the fourth and fifth dimensional levels of human evolutionary timelines. There is an agenda by the negative aliens controller forces to hope that humans choose this game as it provides the means for them to manipulate continuously our power source. Generally, this part pertains to all those who do not want to see the truth, face their own dark shadow, because it appears too hurtful to them to decipher the truth. The Ascension movement is about finding the willingness and the vigilance to do the inner alchemy, to serve the God source, irrespective of how hard it may feel to certain individuals. It is all about taking self-responsibility, and it is about feeling accountability to do your part. Pain avoidance epitomizes another form of fear, the fear of facing your demons. And fear has traditionally been a decisively potent source for the negative aliens in order to be the controllers of the human population. Similarly, comfort zones epitomize a form of alien implants. They generate self-righteous contentment and gratification, which, amidst condemning humanity to unconsciousness, provide a way for controlling the greatest majority of the human population. And this is particularly prevalent in the Western world, and more specifically the United States. Plagued by a sense of false euphoria, this has also traditionally given the delusion of entitlement and supremacy that is so rampant in the United States, submitting to the delusion slogans of the United States is the greatest, with the rude awakening of changing one's tunes now to make America great again, and of more recently, keep America great. It has also brought the sensation of striving to submit to the dogma of elitism, with the dreams of being special, distinct, and belonging to the privileged class of people. All this epitomizes anti-creation and is, as it brings a sense of self-supremacy, or at least the craving for it, disconnection and apathy that all represent a lack of spirituality. The controllers know this very well and are expert in the field of manipulation. The negative alien controllers use frequency fields to create a net in order to keep humans confined, or better said, imprisoned, unable to ascend to higher dimensions of consciousness. All this ultimately amounts to a lack of consciousness expansion or evolution. As long as humans believe they are free, they will never question the controllers about their personal right of free will and sovereignty. And Earth humans are often duped with a flash of next cool technology or beautiful things to be conditioned or programmed to be easily dazzled or mesmerized with. Furthermore, with the new trend in promoting artificial intelligence, the agenda is to begin to introduce themselves to us as possibly advertise themselves as gods or some advanced intelligences. Perceiving them as gods, this will make humans inclined to want genetically intermingle with them and possibly breed with them by possibly creating a human super race. This is why the agenda of alien hybridization and transhumanism is so much pushed nowadays. However, what lies under all this facade of technological supremacy and artificial intelligence is the end of our divine solar organic consciousness embodiment. And with that comes confined to a hive mentality and being run by impulses streamed upon through AI machinery akin to automation. Thus, once being duped by all this false and artificial pizzazz and glitter and phony technological splendor and submitting to the dogma that it represents, it is the utter end of the right to free will and sovereignty for the human beings. Thus, with all might, and while you can, preserve your organic life force. Your personal power as still could be directed with your full intention through retaining your self-sovereignty and freedom as a divine, solar, organic consciousness being. You are God, period. You are divine, who underneath happens to have the pedigree of being the crown jewel of all consciousness embodiment creation in the Nebadon universe. It is your divine right to stay resolute and state your claim as such. Stay away from anything that is siphoning your energy, wanting your worship or claiming power or elitism over you, while you are already inherently superior by design and certainly by comparison, something that the negative aliens deep down and realize and so much resent. And that's the end there. There's a helpful statement. I don't know if you want me to read that, do you?
No, that's okay. That's just to encourage people to look into the Facebook pages.
I suggest anyone who's just recently become familiar with your work to read everything, as much as they can. Because like you said in other interviews, you understand that people have been so targeted that the reason they can't read anymore or hear things properly is because of these inserts. Phones have made people, you know, it's given them ADHD because they can't focus their attention for more than 2 or 3 minutes. And I think at first, when people first awake, that's the hardest thing to overcome for them. But it's great now that they can listen to these papers and maybe read them at the same time. That would also help. But this paper, I think, is very important, and it's the one I wanted to read because of personal experience in being almost duped and certainly siphoned of my energy by many fake spiritual, so-called spiritual leaders. And then understanding the need to come away and work on myself, by myself. For a long time, I came away from the internet even to do that because my body got very sick as well. And I think anyone who's suffering, who has, a lot of people have illnesses they've had to deal with for many years. Once you begin to understand all of this information, you can actually start to help yourself rid those dark things in your body and start to feel better, you know. But it's all a process, and it definitely begins with the right information, which you have given us. So, you know, I'm so grateful that you've given this information, because I understand it and I can see it in a certain way, but sometimes articulating it is hard. But you've done all that for us now. You've explained everything so well, and I would love to help other people understand the importance of coming away from what they think are good spiritual teachers. Because there's so many people still aligned to particular famous ones. I don't know if I should name any names, but popular healers who are also million and billionaires, they're definitely to be avoided, I believe. Because a lot of their information is, as you said in the paper, you know, going to align people to a fake ascension process that's going to entrap them. And I think it's very, very important for people to understand how they need to work within themselves now. And that's really what I wanted to say about, in general, anyone pursuing knowledge and the wish and want to ascend, to please stay away from anyone selling ascension, because ascension can't be sold or bought. It must be done within yourself. There is no shortcuts. We've been here trapped for a long time, and we must understand that as soon as you look for help within yourself, you find it appears. And trust that. By looking outside yourself or deciding to write a check for $5,000 or whatever to somebody who's promising you X, Y, and Z, all you're doing is making their bank balance bigger.
Yeah. One thing I want to add to that is that if you see a very well-oiled machinery that propagates, so to speak, spirituality, is almost definitely, in fact, I would say 100%, is governed, supported by the negative aliens.
I agree.
For example, all this stuff that comes from the Galactic Federation of Light, so to speak, it's run by the negative aliens, okay? Reptilians control Galactic Federation of Light, Okay? Because they control basically this part of the universe anyway, because they conquered and won it, in a war. And also the group of Anunnaki, the fallen Anunnaki, Enki-Enlil,
Yeah.
so their father Anu was, you've probably heard about some of this through
Yeah.
Closing
I
source,
read Zacharias Sitchin's work.
yeah, such
Yeah.
and all that. But
Yeah.
so those, and then also there is what is the union between Thoth, Enki, and Enlil, okay, which has given rise to the fictitious character of Lucifer, okay. Lucifer, they say archangel, all this kind of stuff, okay. If you want to know exactly where that comes from, it comes from the time of Gaia, that when the negative aliens annihilated the 10, 11, 12 dimensions, and they got rid of the Aquafarians, who were the original human beings, you know what I'm saying? The 12
Yeah.
strands, crystalline, all that stuff. And then there was a group of people called Azurites. And these are, so I've written about this regarding founders and the seeding, and I've started finishing, I just start a bunch of papers and I get distracted to something else. There's not enough time to go do it all.
Yeah.
And I don't want to just spit out stuff for people. I want to, as you said, write it in such a way that will, in a way, my son always makes fun of me saying this, but so to speak, drop the mic. There's nothing else to say. Make it so clear that, you know what I'm saying? That's
Yeah.
why I don't get any adversarial thing from anybody. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because it appeals to the heart. It appeals
Yeah.
to genetics and stuff. I don't pretend to be a
Well,
guru. I
it's
don't.
more than that. When I read your work, I know it's come from within your heart, within the source connection. You can actually feel that. And that's why, I'd love to encourage anyone, especially new people who are just waking up, who are just taking that leap to try and find out who they are and why they're here and sort their energy out, to really sit down and read the work. And if you have to, because I would rather paper over a screen, I certainly feel like touching the paper, moving my hand through each sentence sometimes, there's something about that, for me anyway,
Yeah.
that I've always read books, you see, physical things. So if you're an older person, maybe that would appeal to you better. Maybe you don't have a printer at home, but sometimes getting stuff printed in your local shop isn't expensive, 10 cents a sheet or something like that. It's not going to knock you back too many dollars. And
I know.
read one at a time.
I know. I've been kind of failing in that and putting out the books, because I'm not looking for fame and fortune to get,
Yeah, so you haven't physically.
bestseller author and all this nonsense. And also I don't need the money, or I don't want the money or anything
No.
like this. Anyway, but what I was trying to tell you, let's go back to that
Yeah,
if these negative aliens basically controlling the Galactic Federation light, and if you find a well-oiled system, and there have been some, even what's cropping up is this true journalism. You know what I'm saying? Like the QAnon or the truthers, or started MUFON, all this stuff. And once they get big, once they get the attention of a bunch of people, the negative aliens are right there. Okay, and what they do, they start controlling which they've done with big corporations too. The big corporations were small corporations, and then they either purchased them, or they worked on the CEO and, you know, worked on their, you know, egotism, narcissism, elitism, all this. This is the name of the game. And then they get them under control. And then, you know, they join basically the negative aliens. You know what I'm saying? I mean, they never look at them as equals. They're always puppets, and they're looking actually as not much more than animals, that they look at everything. They're gatherers, hunters. They come in here, they think we're humans are animals. They want to feed on us. So those people, they use them as puppets to control and to propagate, and they condition them to see over their interest. You know what I'm saying? Interest over the, you know, the planet. Anyway, what I was going to tell you is that they come in there and they give you all these things, and they call you, you know, this and that, and make you believe that you are something. They actually start telling you them garbage about their lineages, that they're from Lyra, they're from this, they're from that. You know what I'm saying? And all this stuff, and people start to believe that. Even they can start calling them princesses, prince of this, prince of that, king of this, you know, other. It's all nonsense, all to just work on their vanity, to get them under their control. And then they get them under control, they have their clutches into that organization. And then they, of course, they support the organization that becomes so well oiled, and it becomes, you know, so widespread, you know,
Yeah,
what I'm saying?
I know
So,
exactly what you mean.
yeah. So the ones that are very big, and then also, you know, if you these kind of societies that keep away from them, they're no
Yeah,
good. They
I know.
they're anti-ascension movement actually. They see something good can be developing, potentially they go and destroy it.
Destroy it. Yeah,
Negative aliens are destroyers. They are parasites. They they specialize in decaying. They're anti-God, anti-creation, anti-organic consciousness being, anti. You know what I'm saying? That's their forte. That's their extreme polarity. You know what I'm saying? So you want to keep away from this. And one other thing that I wanted to say, specifically, be very, very careful. Don't get into these things such as astral travel,
yeah,
using mushrooms. You know, they don't even use ayahuasca, but you know, these kind of things. You know what I'm saying? And then what happens is that they project, and in a group, they project all these holographic insets to them, which is very easy. They have the technology. It's easy for
yeah.
them to do that. So you would see a certain program of reality that you're all participating in there, and you think that it's real. You think you're there and doing it, and then when you wake up and you say, "Wow, I did a trip." I mean, well, yeah, you did a trip. That's for sure. That's a drug trip. But they
Mm.
think like it's like transmigration. It's having been in a different dimension and stuff. They are actually are on a different dimension, but they're on a negative alien, false sort of space, false
Yeah,
timeline, because they can create. They've learned to do all this stuff. You know what I'm saying?
I
So
know
anyway,
exactly what you mean.
but
Yeah,
these people think that, you know, they're actually doing something real, and you know, so those are the people that are preyed upon. Then they're paying $5,000 here, $3,000, and they think, well, that's the real thing.
yeah, right. And then you get charged massive amount of money.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's this other guy. I don't want to even mention his name, but he pushed disclosure so much. This doctor and stuff like this. He was charging $2, $3, $4,000 to have the benefit of having his presence. Should I do that? Should I start
I'm pretty
charging? You know?
sure I know who you mean. There's a couple of them, yeah, that have done that. I can't understand why people would actually hand over their money
Pure,
to.
pure love, okay? Pure love and money, and you know, this self-service and all this, they don't go together. If you're in service to self, and it's usually service to self only, that's totally against unconditional love.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, I don't want to, I don't want praise. I get enough wonderful comments from you guys that is heartwarming. But you know what? I see it and that's it. But the point is, and I don't want another being praised for this or something. But I get up in the morning, 2 hours I stand in here and I'll do this. Do I ask for $1?
No.
Because it comes from love.
Mm.
I adore talking to you. When I see you, I just got to know you, Liz, right?
Yeah.
But you know what? I mean, I feel your energies. It is in my heart. It's real. It comes from God.
Yeah.
And you're smart. You know what I'm saying? I can feel this. You have developed. I mean, you have experimented with a lot of spirituality, and you said
Yeah.
that you've done things yourself. You know they can't dupe you anymore. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
that's the status that you have to follow this
Yeah.
kind of example. I think you could be a good role model. You know what I'm saying? As a person who has come in here to participate in this program, you know what I'm saying? Because this is real. And
Yeah.
listen to me, real is simple. God is simple. I mean, you may not understand this sentence right away. God is simple. God is everything. It's the whole cosmos created by this entity. God is a magnificent, adorable entity, but it's simple.
Yeah.
And it teaches you simplicity. Law of one is all simplicity. It's all about loving, cherishing, compassion, empathy, service to others, unconditional love. What is this? I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's all, and you can be simple and you can be loving. And
Yeah.
then you can be complicated, ambitious, narcissistic, elitist, all this stuff, and be miserable as hell that
Yeah.
people are. There are people who are very rich, very successful, but their souls are empty.
Yeah.
Okay. The point.
I have met some. Yeah.
Yeah,
They.
I don't want to sound like an evangelist, and I don't want to.
No, but you're right.
I don't want to preach things to you, but I want to tell you this: if you want to understand yourself, you are here to get an experience that,
Yeah.
and that's called life. And life is nothing but consciousness vibration. It means vibrating back and forth towards God.
Yeah.
You get away from God and get energy from God, and you expend that energy to go and live your sojourns of your life, which the objective of it is to enlighten you.
Yeah.
Enlighten you, bring you joy. This spiritual enlightenment will bring you joy. The experience brings you joy, and all this stuff. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
then you have to go back. That was the electromagnetic. You go back to God for uh, being refurbished. Your energies get refurbished by God, because God is an infinite fountain of energy, and He'll give its energy to you candidly, lovingly, without any expectation, not even praying to, to itself. Okay?
Yeah.
Understand this. Understand this.
I do.
And has given you this gift of free will. So you go out there and you actually feel it for yourself. You have a consciousness. You know, you come from God.
Mm-hmm.
But it gives you all that knowledge in you and wants you to self-discover. Life is a career in acquiring consciousness expansion. There's nothing more to it.
Yeah.
Understand this now or in your 1,000 next, I couldn't really say reincarnation. Hopefully reincarnation is going to be gone. There won't be reincarnation. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
When that's done, but still there are going to be, there are still going to be incarnating back until they're ready to
Until they're ready. Yeah.
get to that steps. But anyway, here's what life is a spiritual career.
Mm.
And God only asks one thing from you, not for itself, for you. Okay? And that thing is to expand your consciousness. Don't destroy it. Well, it's already gifted to you to a certain extent. Expand that. When you go self-discover, I mean, what Liza started talking about, everything is within. She's quite right. Everything is within. You self-discover, you bring it out. From inside, you bring it outside. But when you bring it outside, you own it. It becomes like your consciousness experience is no longer just God's. God wants to make gods out of you. And initially puts the seed as the little offspring God in there. But you have sense of responsibility. You have account, you have to feel responsible. You have to nourish the seed. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Negative
Yes.
aliens know a lot of this stuff about us, except they don't want to consider, they know that we're very unique, but they don't want to say that even God exists, because they're very, very bitter. They have been, they're disconnected from the free loop, of energy. You know what I'm saying? The open loop of free energy. So they're very, very angry with us. That they're angry. Listen, how would you like to get up in the morning and not knowing either you're gonna live or not because you're parasitic? You gotta go and grab something and suck its energy, or you're dead. How would you feel?
Yeah.
Okay, now it is not as drastic as that anymore for them, because they've devised this AI machinery, so they put it in a storage tank. But literally, it's like the Borg Collective in Star Trek. They have to go plug in. If they don't plug in and use your stolen energies, they can't continue. They can't even animate their synthetic bodies. They have no life. They have no, it shuts down. But the computer shuts down. If you right now, close your computer and shut it down, nothing. There's nothing.
Yeah.
There's no computation. There's no nothing, no logic, nothing. All the binary system dies. And that's what AI is, a binary system. It's just electronics. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, you are a magnificent being. You are offspring of God. And I cannot, I have bled virtually. I have cried and cried for humanity for ages, since I was a child. So I was always empathic, Never could hate people. Even people did the worst thing to me. Stole my money, stole this, they did things behind me, all kinds of stuff. You know what? Actually, now I understand them better, because I know they were not responsible.
Yeah.
So when Joshua said, "Forgive them, Father, they know
not what they're doing."
they do," it's now how I actually believe. This is why I put up with other stuff. Now, you've seen me. I don't know how long you've been with me, Liz. How long have you been on?
About a year.
Sorry. I might have.
I may not have interacted too much at the start, really, because I was trying to just read what I could and absorb it and get to know you that way a little bit. And then I became friends with you on Facebook, and just because in the past I've had experiences with certain beings, and it didn't go down too well, but I knew within a few weeks, this man, this amazing man is, you know, is God's scribe. You're like God's scribe. You're speaking God's language for us in a way that we can understand.
Well, I think I'm in communion with God, so it's you know, I'm here for a reason. But you know, that what I'm trying to tell you is that what you're doing is, I've done actually. I like the way you've come in, because you didn't come in with pizzazz and this and that and joining. And some people, you know, it's a social media. Some people, they just do it because it's a, oh, another couple of nice slides. Let's, oh, that's good. You know, superficially getting in there.
Yeah.
You came in there and you studied me, and you studied me. That's the way you should do. And I advise everybody new who comes in do this. I don't take it against you. Come
no,
go
I
read
know.
the more you read the papers, the more you read the slides, the more you warm my heart, because I see that my work is not in vain. And
yes,
I see.
And what's happening is, Mohsen, that after maybe I've read a paper and I've thought about it, or I've gone back over a certain part of it, and I leave it then, and I might go for a walk and I come back, or on the walk, when I'm just, you know, on my own, certain things then come in, and it's like the information is filtering itself into me, so I know and understand it better.
No, that's exactly right. I've always said that it's a layering process. You just see it, then it gets processed. When you're sitting having a cup of tea, doing this, doing that, say, the moment.
I get those moments regularly.
Then the knowledge is yours. Then you have connected to God.
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, all right, my dear. Do you have any questions? Any particular questions that?
I don't. I think, you know, we've been on a while. But maybe, you know, maybe if people who are watching this have questions, you know, we could revisit that down the line if things move on with the reading of the papers and that. We could do like just a complete you know, a talk or a gathering maybe between 3 or 4 of us, who then gather the questions, and we'll just have a session of an hour or something, keep it short, to answer. You will answer the questions, you know, because sometimes afterwards, sometimes people, or I might even think of something later, you know, and maybe in the future then we can talk about it rather than right now.
That's great. We have this is still it's in a very, very experimentary phase. You know, it was just to germinate the thought in people to want to recite paper and also do a service for others. That's very important.
Yes, and I believe that's the utmost importance, that many others, as many as possible, take the brave step to start their awakening process. And actually, I would always send them here first, send them to you. I've sent some people to you to read your papers.
Actually, what you could do, you know, what we could do in the future, I thought about this already, that, and I even talked about that, you know, 2 or 3 or 4 of you get in there, start a discussion, and then, you know, come in from the beginning or at the end to address the questions. You know what I'm saying? And these videos are recorded, and you publish them, and you send them all over the world. You know what I'm saying? Put them on YouTube and all this kind of stuff. We can do that, but you know, it needs teamwork. Okay.
Exactly. I agree.
I could sit down and just do my job. That is basically bring the message, the information, and it's very challenging to bring it into words, and then to words that everybody would understand. It's not easy. Okay, that's my biggest challenge. Okay?
Yeah, but you're doing a really great job.
And it has to be done in such a way that it's not too much scientific, or, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what I'm saying? I mean, you can learn and grow and grow and grow, and then, you know. So, but anyway, Yeah, so that's great.
So I'm totally willing to help. You know, you can call on me. I've put the offer there for you, and other people who are helping out too. I put it out to them also.
Okay.
You know, maybe we could start a group on Facebook when things move on a little, or eventually.
Yeah, it has to develop. It has to develop. People have to, you know, everything I've introduced on the Facebook, I realize it takes time. People couldn't understand these slides. Now, as soon as I put a slide, everybody goes for a slide. Nobody's going for these videos yet. Not nobody, not many people.
Yeah.
There will be a time, take my word for it. There will be a
Oh
time
yeah.
people search these videos. They want to search these videos that somebody's reading, you know, reciting the paper, you know, and all that stuff. And
Yeah.
so you know, you got to get used to the process. We're all creature of habits. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, so we're gonna try to finish at this point, and I need to really get on with doing something else.
Yeah.
Today.
I'm watching the time too, and I'm.
Yeah, I don't. It also, we don't want it to be too long. Then people, you know, it's too much
No.
to watch.
People cut off. Yeah, I know.
Yeah. So anyway, let's just say let's just say goodbye to our beautiful soul-seeking soul family members, and you know, we'll pick it up. And I'm pretty sure you're going to be coming to do either the whole series of this Melchizedeks or whatever you wish, you know, whatever you like and stuff like this. So we're going to be seeing Liz again, and we're going to see almost everybody who has come. Yeah, actually, everybody who's come on, you know, they've been wonderful, and not, you know, so they're going to be equally coming back. But you have any questions regarding all this stuff that we talked about? Either, you know, write to Liz, text her on the Facebook, or text me personally.
Yeah, I am willing for anyone to, if you have a question, I've said that to anyone who's ever asked me anything, but please post it on my page and I'll answer it as best I can publicly. So anyone else who is still a bit shy and wanted to get the answer to the same question can just read the post, because that's often what's happening, is a lot of people are too shy or worried that they're going to say the wrong thing, but they have a question. So do please, and we'll take it from there. You know, that's all we can do.
We can actually even begin to, you know, introduce something new with that thought, is that if they ask you different questions or ask me, we could even see if they want. Some people don't want to appear on the video, you know, they're shy.
Yeah.
You know? But if there are, they can even do this, and with you and me, and you know, we try to answer the questions that way instead of texting. I'm trying to get away from all this texting so much on the video, because
I agree. Yeah.
Consuming, and then, you know, making slides and stuff, and then I've got thousands and thousands of slides that I don't even have. When am I going to post those back again? If you notice, my slides never get posted again. It's just one time. And then there's always new. There's always new. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, it's from one point of view, it creates all that, and they could be put into essays and stuff. You know what I'm saying? And I have tons of these slides that are on the same subject, or even I started them as tutorials. They're called 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You've seen that.
Yeah.
30, 40 slides on the same subject, and they could easily be an essay. And I made a few essays out of it, but I don't have time for all this stuff. You can help with this if you want, or whatever. But anyway, if they have if you have questions, write to her or write to me about this thing, you know, Melchizedek and ascension plans and all this stuff, and then we can consider doing another video, and maybe even invite you to come in and personally present your questions and giving your answers. You know, do that. It's a little different than reading the paper. It won't be reading paper. It will be all discussions. but it will be something that is a kind of an offshoot of this particular episode of program. We can do that kind of stuff. Okay.
Yeah, and if it's confusion or unknowing, then we can help clear it up and then help that person or people who are struggling really understand better, because that's what people need is more ability to understand. If they're afraid of asking questions, then just post them privately in a message or whatever, and maybe we'll get to do another video and talk about them.
Definitely.
Okay.
Wonderful. So for that note, I want to thank you very much, Liz, for a wonderful job that you did. And we'll see you soon on something else, and we'll talk about it, scheduling, whatever, planning.
Yep.
So with that note, I will say good day to you, good evening to you, wherever you are. And also, Liz, go ahead and say goodbye to them.
Goodbye, everybody, and please do ask us questions if you're struggling. It really will help you break through. At the early stages, it can be difficult and frustrating, but you'll get there. Just know and remember your inner light. Stay connected to your heart.
Wonderful.
It's very important.
With that note, we say goodbye to you, and we'll talk to you later.
Yeah. Goodbye, everybody.